Hello everyone, Anina back for Vivid Earth. How's everyone doing today? Gosh, what a couple of days. I keep saying that, but energetically it's been quite a lot to deal with. I've been flowing through the energies for the last couple of weeks, but yesterday, my goodness, it was kind of very energized. I had a very short fuse. I was very frustrated. I was very irritated. I don't know about you, but yeah, these are the things that happens when we go through these intense energies that we are going through right now, not only with the astrological alignments, but also with the geomagnetic storms and the solar storms and the frequency of the planet rising and spiking and doing all sorts of things as we head for this final frequency lift before we enter the golden age, I guess. But we'll see how far away that is. But with us now understanding that most likely this Kali Yuga is finally ended and that we've entered the Satya Yuga, it doesn't mean that everything will be light and love immediately, but we will see a shift, we will experience a shift, and things will start shifting rapidly. Now, currently, we do see a lot of the darkness rise to the top. They seem to be illuminated at the moment, and that is exactly what happens when a lot of light floods us, our systems, our environment, our societies, our governments, our control systems, all of these things, all of the dark stuff will rise to the top and they will be illuminated for all to see. So this is a systematic process that we see rolling out right now where, as we know, there's a lot of disclosure going on. Also some wait and see moments that I think, is frustrating a lot of people. So we need to look at that. But essentially the energies are a tad crazy right now. So just hang in there. That it's all about awareness. If you see yourself reacting or getting frustrated or irritated or angry or whatever the case may be, observe it and see where maybe there's some triggers that bring up old childhood wounds, whatever it may be. This is the time for all of that stuff to rise because we can't take it with us. And I sound like a broken record, but this is exactly what is necessary right now, to clear all of these energies and whatever we've been lugging along without noticing, so to speak, it will illuminate it for us and bring it to the surface. And yeah, very, very interesting. And then I came across something that, this morning, just randomly on Instagram, that said, if you're angry, it's probably because your expectations are too high. And what does that mean? What does that actually go back to? And you can actually go back to where did you have too high expectations and why? And is that why you are frustrated and angry? And certainly for me, I felt that. But yeah, we're going to talk a little bit of intel today. I want to also just touch on this very important time because we are now heading for the 29th of March, where we have a solar eclipse in Aries, I believe. But what is very interesting, the day after, on the 30th of March, we will see Neptune entering Aries, and there's some very, very interesting things with this alignment, and it's going to be in Aries for the next 14 years. So it's actually quite a long period of time. There's a few other alignments. I'm not an astrologist. I'm not going to go into detail about all of them. I just find it very interesting and relevant for our times. And so with this Neptune in Aries, it's got a very revolutionary energy because Aries is very fiery. It's about revolution. And the last time, I wouldn't say the last time, but when we look back in history at around 1860s, around about there in the US, that was with when the Civil War happened. And so the same revolutionary energy we see rising now, and we actually see people finally starting to stand back up en masse, and people who've never shared these kind of truths before suddenly sharing it on social media and all over, and it just seems to be intensifying. So I always say the white hats need us to meet them halfway, and it is so true because we have to make an active decision that we want freedom, that we want liberation, that we want a different way of doing things, that we can self-govern. And these are the energies we see starting to rise, not just with the light warriors that have been fighting for this for a very long time, like you and I, but also those just awakening. And I know there may be some new people on here as well, so we welcome you. This is my message is mainly for those that are already awakened. But if you have an open mind and open heart, and you're willing to learn quickly, then this you are going to find very helpful and interesting as well. So welcome. I appreciate all of you, and I love all of you. This whole family that seems to be growing globally, I absolutely love, and I love to hear where you're from, and I always find it so fascinating. And yeah, we're just creating one big soul family globally, and it's so beautiful to watch, and I just love it. So I hope you love it too. I think you do. Anyway, so it's a very revolutionary energy. Last time during the Civil War, we had the same planetary alignment. It doesn't happen that often, so it's pretty significant. There's a whole bunch of other energies that is also very interesting that happens in the next couple of days after the 30th. And then, of course, what I find very significant, because I like to connect the dots, uh, we've been seeing President Trump playing on the fact that the 2nd of April is Liberation Day. He's tweeted or posted about that on Truth. Very, very interesting, because it is just as those energies sort of take anchor into our reality after the 30th of April that we see that 2nd of April date. So we're all kind of wondering what's going to happen on the 2nd. We need big action. We need big things to go down. We need arrests. We need public tribunals. We need it, we need things to happen now. It's tough for us that have been waiting for this for many years, but many people are only just starting to see that something is wrong, and starting to wake up to the truth, and starting to go down the rabbit hole. So for them, it's quite a lot, it's quite shocking. So we just have to trust that things are happening exactly the way that they are supposed to, okay? But I find this energy very interesting. Neptune in Aries, and I think if you think that's not important, astrology is not important, or that it's woo-woo, it's not really based on fact, well, you'd be very, very wrong, because the powers that be, the powers that were, the people in charge of this planet and beyond, they believe in astrology. So yeah, you may not believe in astrology, but they do, and they plan everything according to astrological alignments. Sometimes you can't help. There's a certain planetary alignment. For example, even a global leader's natal chart might, indicate certain things. It may indicate that they're either going to have a very tough time, or that they're really kind of rising up as a leader that's going to, shake things up. You can actually read it in the leaders' natal charts, and it's very interesting to watch. If you look at, for example, leaders like Justin Trudeau, and a few others, like Kamala Harris, for example, they're having a very difficult year this year. The astrological alignment is very tough for them, and not just so tough, but once in a lifetime tough kind of thing, And if we think about what we're actually waiting for, we're waiting for these people to be exposed, we're waiting for their lies to come up to the surface, we're waiting for these atrocities that they've committed to be public for all to see, and that may just happen. I think the other one that's having a tough year is like Diddy and people like that. So it just makes a lot of sense. And I keep saying, the millionaires don't really believe in astrology, but the billionaires do, and for a reason, because the energies are there to support whatever needs to be achieved. If it's not a good time to do certain things, they will lie low. If it's a good time, they will ramp things up, and they will make sure things are done in the correct astrological alignment. So it is important. And, if you look, for example, the last time, I think it was at Pluto and Aquarius, was 1776, during the American Revolution or independence in the US, and then also in France. So these are, and Pluto is an Aquarius as we speak, and a few other outer planets are coming into focus. And also especially when they're in their sort of latter degrees, means there's a closing or an ending of sorts. So we seeing a lot of chapters closing as we speak, and that's very good because we need a new chapter to start. We need this golden age to really kick off with a vengeance now, you know? And so it's good to see that certain things are ending, certain patterns are ending, certain phases and eras are ending. So I find all of that very interesting and well timed, shall I say. Hectic energies. Also, we will have so we have the solar eclipse on the 29th. We have Neptune moving into Aries on the 30th. We have President Trump saying something is going to be happening on the 2nd of April. That's going to be very good. Maybe the corporation will be dissolved. I don't know. We know that the currency revaluation globally is imminent at this stage. It really is imminent. And it will happen when all the other events fall into place. It's not a time-driven event. It's a target-driven event. So that RV will happen when all the boxes have been ticked. And there's a lot of moving parts. So just be patient. This is not just flipping a switch and everything is fine after that. It doesn't work like that. But there was also a poet's truth that was shared: give me liberty or give me death. The 250th anniversary of Patrick Henry's "Give me liberty or give me death" speech. And today we honor his legacy, we invoke his courage, and we summon the spirit of 1776 to bring about a new era of restoration, renewal, confidence, and pride, all while the world is watching. So, very, very interesting. And then, of course, we're seeing a lot of conflict. We see a lot of crazy people out there, which is par for the course. We have this whole green light comms, and I have a fly that needs to go. A lot of green light comms by Mr. Trump, President Trump, and then we look back at the cue boards when there was green is for go, and that was indicating that things were going to kick off in high gear at that point. And so that's interesting because President Trump, I think he was making a speech. I will get to the post just now, but there was a big sort of green light shining. We also saw green light in the skies. A stunning aurora appeared last night in Alaska. Green, green, green. So today we are 55 days from when Trump said there is a bright light over the world. We are 34 days from Michael Bay's birthday Armageddon, and 55 months, 23 days since Greenland was released about the comet clock. So anyway, this post is a bit muddled up, but there's a lot of interesting comms. That's all I have to say. So we're in for some interesting times, no doubt. So guys, just had to close the door. Bit noisy there. Anyway, so POTUS's truth on that April 2nd will be Liberation Day in America. I mean, that's not a small statement. You can't make a statement like that without something big happening. So I find that very curious. Something has to happen that day that indicates this is liberation, at least for America at this point. And we'll be waiting with bated breath to see what that will be. But also 2 minutes earlier, he posted about Make America Great Again. Now, if you look at being 2 minutes, drop 2 on the boards were POTUS will not go onto TV to address the nation. POTUS must isolate himself to prevent negative optics. POTUS knew removing criminal rogue elements as first step was essential to free and to pass legislation. Who has access to everything classified? Do you believe HRC, Hillary, Soros, Obama, etc. have more power than Trump? Fantasy. Whoever controls the office of the presidency controls this great land. They never believed for a moment they, meaning the Democrats and Republicans, would lose control. This is not a red versus, Rip versus Democrat battle. God bless fellow patriots. So something interesting is going to happen. And I also shared on Telegram, by the way, for those that are new and you're wondering what is all this QBS and you've heard it's a big psyop, go and check it out. I've shared a video, I've shared many, but just recently, I think today, a video on my Telegram channel. The link is below. If you're not yet subscribed, make sure you do, because that's where all the information gets shared in detail. So you can go in there, read articles, watch videos, documentaries. All the research is shared on there. So there's a lot of information there. But if you really want to know the truth, it's worth going down the rabbit hole and understanding what's going on in the world right now. Why are we in this situation? What areas of our society is compromised, and what is the counter action taken towards that, because that has been going on for a number of years in the background. So things are happening, moving in the background, slowly but surely. But anyway, this video had a nice caption. It said, "Q, the plan to save the world," which we know. I'm going to just call it letter 17 for now, because I don't want to say that letter too often, because even that gets us flagged on this platform. If you followed the letter 17, you knew that this plan was in place for decades to destroy the global cabal. Very few people have knowledge of this plan, 7 out of 10. So there's only 10 people that know truly what the plan is, and 7 out of that 10 is military. So, we're talking about 4-star generals, etc., that have been loyal to the US, that have been working in the background on this plan. We know that President Trump was asked to run and to play this role in this plan. We know that he's fulfilling his role, and we see it every day, bit by bit. Even if you think he's bombastic, even if you think he's offensive, even if whatever, chauvinist, whatever you want to say, he has to take a peace through strength approach, which means he's going to come across maybe as a bully, but you don't see what's happening in the background and who he's actually been dealing with and who he needs to subdue, who the enemy is that needs to be subdued. And you can't play around with those people. You have to use strength, and you have to be firm, and you've got to do what needs to be done more than anything, and just trust that there's a whole bunch of stuff that you don't know that's been going on in front of us. And some of us have been privy to this because we've done the research for many, many years, and others are only just coming into this information. So suffice to say, there's a lot of catching up to do. But anyway, so it goes further to say, although we haven't reached the top criminals being arrested, by the way, the top guys have already been removed. We see actors in their place. But of course, everyone in the world at large wants to see public arrests, because otherwise people will just always think it's a conspiracy and that it's not real. So that is the part of the plan that we want to see going public. The public has to be able to digest these events, though, and that's why they're happening slowly, as I said before, but this is just a reminder. Although we haven't reached the top criminals arrested, we will get there. For those of you who think nothing is happening, you are wrong. We can see the DNC imploding before our eyes. We see the deep state flailing to maintain control through the judiciary. We are tasked to be calm before, during, and after the storm. We should take that job seriously. Being calm is also being patient, not blackpilling at every headline. And that's true. For the doubters, you need to have faith. You need to understand what showed you in the first place that this plan is legitimate, and not just falter if you see this headline, that headline, Trump said this, Trump said that, and you just pull in different directions. You have to understand this is a very complex military operation. So it goes further to say, I choose to continue to trust the plan as I have seen it working for over 7 years. No one said that taking down the global cabal would be easy or fast. Can you imagine what it takes? Can you actually imagine what it takes to take down this gigantic octopus with its feelers everywhere in every single country, in every city of significance, in every central bank, in every institution, EU, UN, WHO, NATO, and the list goes on and on and on. For the future of our children, I intend to wait it out to the very end. So it requires faith, guys. It requires faith. I see no other planet play to free humanity. So stop your bitching that it isn't happening fast enough for you. Stop complaining we don't have the Epstein list. It will all be revealed at the exact, precisely planned time. Trust yourselves, think for yourselves, and trust President Trump. It's quite a good one. And now we see all sorts of other disclosures happening. We have that big report about the pyramids, or the Giza pyramid, that had this massive structure and actually city underneath that, and that is just soft disclosure, guys. And it's all timed perfectly, and they're showing scans of what's actually underneath the pyramids. I mean, we're talking about 600 meters of foundations times 4 going down into the earth, and they still want to tell us the pyramids were built by hand by the Stone Ages people. So for the masses this is necessary to come out, and it's in the news, and we see all of that. And then another report in the Daily Mail, the CIA docs claim life did exist on Mars, and it was a population of very large people who built pyramids. So all of this is super interesting, but it's soft disclosure. The giants are being disclosed, the pyramids are being disclosed, the real reason for the pyramids. And no, it wasn't a tomb. They didn't need tombs like that. I mean, whoever came up with that story, I don't know, but they kind of sold that lie for a couple of 100 years, which is like surprising. So, these pyramids had so many different functions, and we are about to find out exactly what that is. And you and I, who've done the research, may know that, but, of course, we want to see it publicly explained, because that's when the rest of the people will believe it. So we'll see what the pyramids were really built for, to generate energy, healing facilities, frequency chambers. I mean, you're talking about multiple uses here, but these pyramids were the cornerstones of all cities back in the day, whether you're talking about Atlantis or, all of these previous civilizations, even Tartaria, that have been sort of swept under the rug. You speak to a normal person about Tartaria and they don't know what you're talking about. And then they don't even look any further into how these remnants of the Tartarian Empire, all these magnificent buildings that are huge and actually going down into the earth, because the mud flats raise the ground levels up, so you only see the tippy top. Actually, these structures go way, way down. And they can't explain to you how those have been built, but they don't believe in Tartaria. So all of this information is going to be coming out in the months ahead. The facts about the mud floods, why it happened. I mean, this wasn't just an accident. It was not a freak of nature. These mud floods were meticulously planned through. What they used were liquefaction technology. We've learned recently, well, I mean, I did way back interviews with scalar light experts, and who we can clearly see when there's also natural factors that can cause liquefaction, sorry, but it's not to this extent. Basically, that entire civilization was wiped out, literally wiped out and buried under the ground. So, these huge buildings were not built for normal people. The doors are like 10 stories high. Hello, they were giants. Details about the Titans are emerging again, who were some of these giants. We look at Tartaria, actually, one could say the center of Tartaria was pretty much Russia as we see it today. And so the whole story gets really, really interesting once you start unraveling the wool, or the ball of wool. And I've also shared some amazing videos on the Khazarian Empire, which people need to learn about. So if you want to send that to friends, it's super interesting. Or videos like Canada the Illusion, which is very interesting. So, you know, there are a lot of people that will come around to the truth, and they'll just take time. You and I have had a couple of years. They suddenly having to get a crash course in the truth. It's going to take time. So a lot of these things are going to come out. I mean, the fact that people just Russia's bad, Putin bad. Still, I see that on Facebook every single day because now I've decided to be more present on Facebook. So after a year, I literally haven't been on Facebook for years, like for years. And, if I go in every 6 months, it was a lot. So, but now I decided it might be a useful tool. So, and then it's just, yeah, it's frustrating to see how many people are still brainwashed. And I guess particularly I'm referring to my old circle, as I said before. But the movie that is really good that can be shared with them is the Khazarian Mafia story. I shared that on Telegram. There's a few of those docies that are very, very good. This one included. It will connect a lot of dots. And also, remember, it was completely just forgotten about the devastation of Russia just a couple of, decades ago, or 100 or 200 years ago. I can't remember what the exact date is, but I actually thought it was 60 million Russians, but apparently it is 100 million Russians were wiped out. There's never been such a genocide in our recent history. And yet people just think Russia is bad. It's very sad. But anyway, I'm going back to the article about the CIA and Mars that was shared in the Daily Mail, where there's a lot of red pills or maybe black pills being shared these days. So that's interesting. So, yeah, this article, I don't know. I'm not going to read this now. It's not that interesting. Maybe I'll read it. So the CIA never went to Mars. So most of this is convoluted truth. They did make contact with ancient interdimensional beings, though. You commonly refer to them as demons or fallen angels. In fact, ancient occult societies have been making contact since the beginning of time. Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons, and L. Ron Hubbard are just some of the very few big names you may know about. Research the Babylon working ritual and you will get a little bit more insight. This is just one example. Interestingly, around the same time in the 40s, we saw an explosion of UFO sightings, of course, but the time was unfortunately not right and it had to be swept away. What did they tap into? You can probably guess. They've opened a portal, right, at that time. We have advanced tech beyond your imagination. Research project Looking Glass. Yeah. Giants did once exist. There's evidence of this all over the earth. And so I think the story about giants will definitely come out. And then there was another info that was shared from somewhere. I don't have the person who shared this, but the fact that this person said there was a classified military briefing, high clearance operation disclosure is underway. The deep state launched a silent war on humanity, as we know, engineered disasters, bioweapons, vanished children. I would add to that toxins and poisons everywhere, a media blackout to cover it all. Now the gates are open. Whistleblowers are speaking, the military is moving, this is total disclosure and it can't be stopped. The cabal is collapsing, exposure unfolding globally. Top intel confirms that the largest revelation in human history has begun. Governments, big pharma, media, religion, all of it is being ripped open. Yes, I hope that is true. Nothing will survive this storm. The system is dying. The lies are done. Whistleblowers now defy death to testify. Insiders from military, intelligence, and governments are stepping forward en masse with documents, with names, with fire in their voice. They speak of wars that were staged, pandemics that were planned, genocide disguised as medicine, and they are no longer afraid. Humanity has crossed the line. The silence is over. Natural disasters were weapons, as we know, tsunamis, earthquakes, hurricanes. These weren't acts of nature, they were acts of war. Direct energy, exotic weapons, seismic triggers, all used to test trauma, destabilize nations, and coal resistance. They thought no one would find out. They were wrong. The children, the darkest truth. What's coming will shake the soul of the planet. Massive child trafficking rings, protected by courts, NGOs, intelligence agencies, and religious fronts. This is not about politics. This is about evil, and it's far worse than anyone imagined. Biowarfare, sickness by design. Yes, we're talking about all the big ones. AIDS, cancers, Morgellon, Ebola. These weren't random. They were engineered, released, weaponized. Depopulation was the goal. Control was the motive. Big Pharma was the delivery system. You were never supposed to get better. You were never supposed to be owned. And despite all of that, we did get better. And we did wake up. Okay? We are incredibly courageous and brave. So pat yourself on the back. You've done well. Then, the climate hoax, global psyop. Climate change was the Trojan horse. Behind it was sterilization, mind control, poisoned skies, GMO food, and full spectrum domination. They called it sustainability. It was eco-terrorism. Almost said tourism. No, not that one. Eco-terrorism. The end of modern medicine is coming. Doctors are turning, nurses are defecting, the whole industry is fracturing. Natural cures were buried, cancers were manufactured, pandemics were planned. What rises next will not be healthcare, it will be truth care. And it will be true healthcare because all these old systems were sick care, not healthcare. It was never in anyone's interest to heal anyone. And they never healed anything, like anything. There's not one cure. Okay. So dark to light, this is the storm. This is not theory, this is war, and we are winning. The truth will tear this world in two. Yeah, what a time to be alive, guys. And then in other news, it's still ongoing. Taxpayer-funded crack pipes being handed out to 17-year-old kids in the US, and somehow this has been normalized. They actually have government-funded stations set up to do this. I don't know. No words. Literally, I don't have any words. The Florida Keys are burning, which is interesting. Now, probably the news that sort of upset a lot of people was that there was, of course, in the news, and this was on Fox News, an article, Trump suggests the US could join the British Commonwealth if offered by King Charles. The president was responding to a report that claimed the monarch would secretly offer the US associate memberships in the 56-member organization. And this person summarized it quite well. News Treason Channel. I'm hopeful by now people can understand why this story has been deployed for the seeding of public consciousness. Does the public at large understand that the US was never truly free from the crown? They might as well be part of the Commonwealth because that's how they've been treated. Does the public understand the three-headed monster comprised of the City of London, the Vatican, and DC? Does the public understand that the entire US monetary system, legal system, and even our birth certificates have been under the ownership of the crown, as is with most of the other countries? Does the public understand that the key to our sovereignty and true freedom is coming through the destruction of the system? The answer is, of course, no. So this is narrative seeding, guys. Narrative seeding. You have to have sometimes a little bit of a shocker of a news to grab people's attention, and then you can deliver the message when you've planted the seed. This person says, how do you start a conversation? Through created controversy. We've seen this tactic deployed over and over again in the fifth generation narrative war. Trump knows exactly what he's doing. Not just him, but the entire White Hat military alliance. This is carefully planned. If you see people getting upset by this, then good. It means the design is working. They're paying attention, and whatever comes next will reveal. So, what else? I like this little bit on Jasara's History and Timeline by William Liebenberg. He's a professor, by the way, and he's been studying Jasara, the RV, and a few other things regarding the financial side of things for a long time. And I respect his work and his research. And he said, amazing how world events are culminating at the same time for the precipice, the point of destruction of the old world. Once this first domino tumbles, the rest will fall. Everything is already in place. It only needs one catalyst for the bonds to pay out. They are ready, but everything is event-driven, not date-driven. Remember that. The list below undoubtedly proves that we are at the door of the bond payout, and that's for everyone that bought Zim bonds or even, dinars and all these undervalued currencies that are set to revalue first when the global currency reset begins. So he's created a nice list, which I liked. So the first one is the banks, Basel III compliance or closure. So Basel III requirements attaching rare earth minerals and other commodities to new tokenized assets that will come into play during the Protocol 20's rollout of quantum technologies. So the banks either need to be Basel III compliant or they will close. So the ones that will close will not be Basel III compliant. And it's very difficult, by the way, because they need a certain percentage of assets. So that what effectively that means, all the reserves they have to have assets to back that up. And we know that many of them just don't even have 10% reserves. So all of the people holding money in that bank is actually not there. They've spent it and used it for something else. And it's just like being shuffled around. So it's like a Ponzi scheme. So if everyone goes in today to get their money out, they will not be able to give it and the bank will fold. And so Basel III kind of forces them to have, I think it's 10%, but I can't remember exactly, in assets. So they've got to have gold backing or precious metals for all the reserves that they hold. So, the banks, the second point is the banks abolishing of the Federal Reserve System. Then BRICS, nations join and break trade records. Again, BRICS, their own payment system. They stop using SWIFT. The BRICS is about domination of oil, gas, resources. The BRICS exceeds the G7's GDP. Important. And by the way, there's a string of countries that have not been publicly announced, but that are joining BRICS. So this will make it a couple of hundred. It makes up the biggest GDP of, in the world and population-wise as well. So it's by far now the majority of what is available on Earth. BRICS, the Bretton Woods 3, pushing nations to gold-backed sovereign currencies. BRICS, countries' rejection of the Rothschild-controlled central banks of the cabal, as President Putin did. And he showed the world how possible that is. He did it like years ago. Okay. BRICS, the collapsing of the cabal petrodollar, which I spoke about as well, because they will no longer trade oil in US dollars. So countries will use their own currencies and they will choose whatever currency. So they're not committed to the US dollar for that anymore, and they will drop the dollar all at once, apparently. And then BRICS, again, dumping of US Treasury bonds. And then as far as the Commander-in-Chief goes, President Trump signed over his presidential power to the military in 2017, just before the Biden inauguration. The US is still inside a military operation called continuity of government. And yeah, that's a good point to mention for those that are newly awakened. And this was launched by Ezra Cohen Watnick and CIC Trump is driving this global operation from behind the scenes, connecting all these markers listed here. Trump commands over 50,000 secret troops. They all have been deputized as federal marshals to make arrests because we know there's more than 500,000 indictments, and each indictment lists several people. So there's literally millions of arrests that are coming, like millions of arrests. These indictments are not unsealed yet. When do you think they'll get unsealed? I don't know. Hopefully soon. And then next point, countries disposing of corrupt governments, and it's slowly but surely happening. I see it slowly happening in South Africa as well. Actually, as you know, even though maybe it just doesn't speak about it, but Ernst Roots in South Africa is doing amazing work. He's been interviewed by Tucker Carlson and really dropping the true history of South Africa, going back hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's just not as the history book says it is. And then he was charged with like treason or something ridiculous for just speaking the obvious truth. And now I think he's been interviewed by another very big podcaster. We don't know who that is yet, but that should come out in the coming days. Could it be? I know he sat down with Jack Posobiec. What is his surname? Very weird surname. And then maybe could it be also be someone else? Like, I don't know, Joe Rogan. I don't think Joe Rogan is the right kind of, but I'm thinking it's going to be somebody with a couple million subscribers or followers. So we're seeing that happening in South Africa, and what I find quite encouraging, because I am a very doubtful person, okay? I just don't just follow anyone. But the fact that he said he wants to focus on advocating for greater decentralization and self-governance, I like that kind of talk. I really, really do, because I've been talking about that for literally years. It's the only way forward. We operate more in smaller communities, not at a country level, like blasting all the rules, but rather a community-led initiatives where provinces, states, towns actually govern themselves, because it's related to the people living in that area. So it's unique to the people living in that area. And it's decentralized. You know how much money we're going to save? Like bring Doge to South Africa, because it needs to be and I'm sure what we're going to uncover is going to be nothing short of shocking. So hopefully we'll get our own Doge. I suspect we might. And this whole discussion about decentralization will take off, because we just don't need a government anymore. And it's been written in the stars. Governments as we know it will not exist in the next 10 years. And that's a very conservative time frame. I think it'll be way before then, next 2 years, maybe 5 years max. We won't see governments in its current form exist anymore. There'll be a change of structure completely. All systems are crumbling and falling because they are not working. People can actually govern themselves, and this whole revolutionary energy that we see rising now will lead to more people saying, you know what, I'm prepared to learn what I need to learn. I would rather govern myself than be governed by a bunch of dumb puppets on a string. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. It's just, that's what it is. All of our political parties, or most of them, are controlled by the same puppet masters in Europe, the Crown, the Vatican. We're speaking about the same old guys that control the rest of the world. And you know, maybe some of the people in these parties may have good aspirations when they start, but before long they will be called into the office, be sat down and said, you know what, that's great and everything, but you're going to do as we say, okay? And that's unfortunately, in some of them, just because they get paid well, just look the other way. Very sad, but anyway, I digress. So yeah, it's written in the stars, and in fact, as a as a global civilization, we will eventually be split into 7 kingdoms. It's called kingdoms, but it's maybe not kingdoms like we remember it, where it's more like 7 territories, if you will. So these territories will be sort of led as a group and not controlled as such, but just for organization. And then we will see different states, or provinces, or cities governing themselves with their own law of the land and own ways of governing. People's courts will come into effect. The bar exam will fall. The bar itself will fall. So lawyers as we know it will not be the same, and we will have people's courts. We will have a jury of peers who understand the situation that is arising in front of the court, and not just one corrupt judge, making a decision after he's been bought and paid for by the other party. Especially the banks, they love to do that. They buy the judges, and nobody taking a bank to court. It's almost impossible to win against the bank. They just bought and paid for, because courts are actually like banks as well. So you have the bench, and that in Latin means bank. So every time a decision gets made, something gets issued, a piece of paper gets passed around in the court, that gets monetized. So it's actually a money-making scheme. Okay, that's what it is. And those who are complicit are going to have the wrath of what's to come to deal with, unfortunately. If they chose money over what's right, they're going to feel it, trust me. So all wrongs will be righted, believe you me. Anyway, I got sidetracked. I wanted to talk about the CV thing, exposing the whole thing, that it's not really a V, you know what I'm talking about, and the whole Jabadoo things and those crimes and prosecutions will be coming. The White Hats intentionally let the deep state push their agenda so they could get the crimes into congressional records. That's very important, because they have to do everything by the book. And of course, there will be casualties in the process, but as a planet, we will be saved. And so you've got to decide, do you want to save the planet or not? Those are the only decision here. 90% of the US Congress and thousands of politicians and many stars will pay the price for their sick games and sick crimes, and we'll get to see it. Trump restored firing squads and will air executions on television. Yes. Many have already been arrested and replaced with doubles, and this is the movie we see playing out, because they couldn't risk anything going wrong. So they already had to deal with these individuals years ago. And what we're seeing playing out now is simply a movie, and it is a war for the public's attention. It's a narrative war, because that's the war that they need to win. They need to win the narrative war, the White Hats. And when they're done, the public will be in the right mindset to accept what comes next. Let's not forget the Brunson case and another 2020 and voter thingies. You know what I'm talking about. I'm so scared of that whole sort of word, because I got banned. One of my channels got banned because of that. And then Justice Clarence Thomas also said, I have sole independent power to rule on the 2020 and 2022 competition fraud case that would have a nationwide ripple effect. So, yeah. $500,000, $1 trillion lawsuit against the US federal government and over 140 monopolists. Biden indicted for Russia, Ukraine, China, and Kazakhstan bribes. Exposing of the DOJ, the FBI, the C3-letter agency, the DHS, the NSA, the DHS, ONI, DIA, as well as other extremely powerful organizations within the international intelligence community, e.g., for example, CGHQ, Mossad, MI6, DGSE, etc. On that, I have it on good account that the NSA is actually that they managed to use NSA, or at least part of it, for their military operation over the last few years. So um, I'm not sure if there's a division or a split in that agency, but it's worth mentioning. Um, the Biden administration refusal to protect the US borders, pedophilia, and human stuck in traffic exposure, Epstein list, the honey trap video release, Adreno, and then the thing that goes with that, which is the Chrome talking in code, because otherwise it's going to be risky, and the literally the torture of the little ones and the sacrificing, as well as the cannibalism, and those stuff is on video. And I don't know if you saw, maybe I didn't share this on Telegram, I shared it on Instagram. There was a video on Gucci. Salma Hayek is married to the chairman or the CEO, whatever, of Kering, which owns Gucci and a few other companies, Henry Pinault. And there was a little campaign where she was like literally devouring what looked like either brains or insides. It looked demonic, and she was just like left with like blood on her face, and I was like, oh my word, it's all coming out. It's sick. And we're going to see cannibalism finally coming to the fore, because there are a lot of restaurants, underground restaurants, that serve this meat, human, at extortionate prices, and people think it's cool. They'd go there and they have a bowl and they love the meat, which I believe my friend Francine says they call it long pork. So all of these things are going to be revealed for the public to see, but it's going to be systematic release. And then cryptocurrency, XRP looks like it's going to be the global reserve, and Bitcoin will be eventually locked in as well. There's been the cryptocurrency reserve that Trump is setting up. So it's kind of clear where things are going, isn't it? The economy is spiraling down worldwide as debt mounts. The UK is having a lot of problems right now. It is like very close to some of these banks collapsing, and the government itself. The US as well is bankrupt. So, things are teetering on the edge here. It literally is. And when we look at in terms of economy, the Vatican, NATO, EU, the WHO, WTO, and UN, they're all bankrupt. So Trump has already withdrawn from the WHO, the WHO, and he's going to do it with NATO and the UN as well. And then, of course, the crashing of the Cabal's stock exchange, that has to happen. And then also the Evergrande, that Chinese property giant, will be collapsing the CCP and freeing those people from the clutches of the CCP, because you can't look at China and it's just China. Like everywhere else, there's a cabal there, in the form, in this case, of the CCP. So the whole property market, the world economy, the Chinese Communist Party, that will be dissolved. And then the US debt to reach an all-time high of 36 trillion, and federal public debt is expected to reach 100% soon, and to exceed the country's annual economic output in 2025. Thus, the US corporation is bankrupt, like I said. The farmers, uniting globally against the cabal's imposed laws, they've been feeling it the worst, and they're the ones feeding us. And I also acknowledge that the farming industry has to change. It has to transform. The single monocrop kind of way of farming, the way that animals are being treated, all that has to change, and it will. But how soon, I don't know, but yeah, hopefully soon. And then the cabal US fiat dollar is also losing its reserve status, as I said, and will be replaced with the the RL-USD. So some very interesting facts summarized there. Thank you to Prof. William Liebenberg. Now, he was saying also something interesting about April 2nd that redefines global alliances. The US, with its gold-backed dollar and energy dominance, becomes the linchpin of a new trade bloc. Nations like Canada and Australia will join the Gold Pact by 2026, pegging their currencies to gold and XRP for seamless trade. So you're vacationing in Sydney, paying with a digital wallet that converts dollars to Aussie dollars instantly, no fees. Developing nations like Kenya leapfrogs into modernity using blockchain to manage land rights, doubling agricultural output and selling organic coffee to your local supermarket. This interconnected prosperity rooted in America's bold moves ushers in a world where opportunity knows no borders and you're living at the heart of it. There'll be the revival of American manufacturing and innovation. So with the gold standard anchoring the dollar, the businesses will gain confidence to invest heavily in the US. Imagine factories reopening in places like Detroit and Pittsburgh, producing everything from steel to microchips. So they're becoming fully sort of independent and self-sufficient, which the US should be. I mean, hello. They shouldn't be reliant on China and Taiwan and etc. for all these things. They can produce it themselves very well. They did in the past. The Department of Commerce projects a 30% increase in manufacturing output by 2027, driven by Trump's policies favoring domestic production, exactly what tariffs should do. And that's the reason for the tariffs. So it's a readjustment, which is necessary, in order to bring all that manufacturing home. So for you, this will mean access to high-quality American-made goods at lower prices and no more overpaying for imported junk. Innovation skyrockets as companies like Tesla and Apple bring R&D back home, hiring thousands of engineers at salaries averaging $150,000 a year. Your neighbor, a welder, was laid off in 2020, for example, now runs a 3D printing shop making parts for electric vehicles, pulling in $90,000 a year annually. So this is how the wealth is going to come back, and the people, and that is just one country, but this is going to happen globally. America is the leader in this big change. Donald Trump's declaration of April 2nd as Liberation Day isn't just a symbolic gesture, it's the launchpad for a reimagined world order where America leads with strength, innovation, and fairness. You must watch carefully what he says, because a lot of people just listen to the words and then they're like, oh, I'm a bit disappointed. But he does often speak in code, so you need to look deeper because it's indicative of what's going to happen over the coming weeks and years, because you can't always say things in the exact details because sometimes the world's not ready for it. Hence, I think a lot of people have been disappointed with, they all expected him to come right out and lay it all on the table, and you can't do that, unfortunately. So the shift has to kind of happen gradually and then fast. So a bit of both. Beyond the gold standard, oil drilling surge and blockchain revolution already set in motion. This day heralds a cascade of changes that will redefine how you live, work, and dream. And remember, oil is just a temporary thing anyway, because we're going to get free energy soon. But it's going to take a number of years to bring that into our everyday living in all of its parts, including our homes and everything. It's going to take a while to roll out, right? But it's going to start this year. For Americans and the global community, the future is a tapestry of opportunity woven with threads of economic stability, technological advancement, and cultural renewal. Here's the next layer of what's coming. Oil drilling isn't just about fuel, it's about farming. Cheap energy slashes costs for fertilizers and machinery, supercharging US agriculture. The USDA forecasts a 25% drop in food production costs by 2026, meaning your grocery bill shrinks right down. Farmers in Iowa and Nebraska, once struggling, now export record amounts of corn and soybeans, with the gold-backed dollar making their goods competitively globally. You eating fresher, locally grown produce and food. Deserts in places like inner city Chicago shrink as affordable supply chains expands. And with RFK set to ban GMOs and glyphosate, the food's going to get healthier as well. Again, it may take a little while for all this to roll out. Globally, nations like Egypt and Nigeria reliant on US grain see hunger rates drop to 15%, fostering stability and goodwill towards America. It has always been about the farmers, the epicenter of everything, epicenter of life, really. If President Trump and every wise global leader deeply appreciates them. In South Africa, they are vehemently prosecuted by the communist ANC, actually the New World Order. We know the ANC are just puppets, and blatantly ignored by the globist DA party. Both of them are globalists, let's be frank. South African farmers, keep the faith, your day of victory is fast approaching. Watch President Trump. So I like that summary. There's more stuff that I shared on the Telegram channel, so be sure to go and watch it there. And there is a revolution everywhere. We look at Turkey, Istanbul, huge chaos over the mayor's detention that happened yesterday, clashes between protesters and police. You look at, what's the other country? You know what's happening in Romania, and then starts with a B in Europe, and it just slipped off my tongue. I will remember it shortly. But you can see this revolutionary energy everywhere. People are not taking it anymore. No more. They said enough. They've been pushed far enough. Thank goodness, finally. So this is good. This is all good. Okay, I think this is quite a lot to share. And I'm going to just leave you with this beautiful post to remind you the end of the Kali Yuga has happened. We are witnessing the end of the Kali Yuga, the final chapter of the darkest and most dense age in the great cosmic cycle of time. The Kali Yuga, known in ancient Vedic texts, is the age of illusion, ignorance, division, and spiritual amnesia. Isn't that the truth? Where humanity has been trapped in lower consciousness, disconnected from divine truth. But as the cycle comes to a close, we are shifting into the Satya Yuga, the age of truth and light, where higher consciousness, unity, and divine wisdom are restored. This marks a massive turning point in our ascension and evolution, a moment where humanity is called to awaken, to release the karmic binds of the old world, and to reclaim its sovereignty as divine, multidimensional beings. The darkness is dissolving, the illusion is lifting, and we are rising into a new era of cosmic remembrance, liberation, and divine embodiment. The golden age is not coming, it is here now, within us. And that is why every thought, emotion, word, and action that you take in every moment is so important, because we are building that golden age. We are co-creating it. We are the architects of this golden age, all of us, because that collective manifestation is what will bring the golden age into our reality. So mind your thoughts, your emotions, your words, and your actions, and change them if they are not of a good frequency, because you have a role to play as a builder, co-creator, builder, and architect of this new earth, this golden age. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it. I've got tons to do, but I'm so glad I could check in with you guys. Remember to subscribe to this channel so we can grow it. Shadow banning is real. Also on Instagram, I'm being totally buried now. Like literally, they're still fact checking me. They said they'd fire their fact checkers. They're still around. They're fact checking me every day. And then as soon as that happens, I get like no views on my stories, or like 2 views. Like, hello, I should have like 300 to 500 at least. So let's spread the truth. Go and follow me there. Share this video, share this truth. Follow me on Rumble, where my backup channel is. I'm taking a risk every time I talk about all these things on this platform, but we shall forge forward and we shall not be stopped. Where we go one, we go all. Remember that. So I'll see you all in the next one, and I'm sending you all much, much love.